What's up, everybody? This is Carpo, and I'm going to read this paper I wrote. You know, it's a little bit different from my usual videos, and hopefully I can get through the whole thing. I generally speak from the heart, so reading off of a paper gives it a little bit of a different, different demeanor, so I'm going to go for it. And it's a paper I wrote called The Stories That We Tell Ourselves. And if I'm so inclined, I might even edit it a little bit. As far as adding in some pictures, I definitely won't edit my language. So, the sad stories we tell ourselves are often the only thing holding us back from greatness. And it's my belief that each of us deserves to feel good about our lives. We all have issues with self-esteem, which is why so many people are self-critical. Yet if this is true, then why do so many others appear self-obsessed? Have they discovered a secret to confidence that we should learn ourselves? Usually not. If you dig deeper, those who appear to be confident and strong-willed are often the softest when you peel away the layers. It is one thing to have confidence in yourself, but quite another to tell people that you are the greatest and that you know what is best for them. We all know people like that. Of course, there are very confident people who have discovered how to find balance with their self-image, yet they rarely talk about their own awareness. This is something I myself have been working on over the years, and as I get older and realize my own self-doubts, which are usually shaped by those pesky stories we tell ourselves, rather. By realizing those stories and not letting our past define us, we can truly become new people and shape our future the way we want it, or at least have the courage to try. We have to own our thoughts and try not to ignore them. If we have a defeating or negative emotion, we should try not to fight or suppress it, but rather let it flow through us. With practice, we can learn to receive information, process it, and let it go. Emotions are temporary. They will pass, and there's no such thing as finding happiness. What we do is we find things that give us more positive feelings or improve our lives, but there will always be hard times. Creating a space in our minds to let our thoughts flow through it is an essential part of remaining sane. We don't have to hold on to outdated ideas and opinions merely because we are attached to them. It's that attachment to ideas that causes so much of the strife in the world. Our stubborn inability to compromise is usually driven by our egos, and when we feel our ideas are threatened, we resort to name-calling and violence. Wars are fought on the premise that we know better than them, and this is the world that we are forced to reckon with. Of course, sometimes we do know that our opinions are wrong, or others' opinions are wrong, and these are difficult things to deal with. Especially when people are attached to their opinions, they tend to take criticism of ideas as criticisms of themselves. Blaming others for our bad luck is another damaging attitude that causes division and xenophobia. People are quick to blame the Jews, the Mexicans, the government, their parents, their lot in life, or a host of other justifications for our actions against others and our lack of empathy. Not loving the self is the first step towards not loving the world, and eventually one can learn to hate life itself. People who feel marginalized or unlucky often spew hatred and incite violence to make themselves feel better. Some become trolls online, or members of extremist groups, marching in the streets with tiki torches. That last part tells a story that, yes, I also have opinions. I have limits to my tolerance, and when I see someone speaking what I see as lies and bullshit, I have to object. We don't have to sit by passively and love everyone, nor accept things that we see as damaging. That said, we must educate ourselves, not just on the subjects we speak about, but on the way we handle it personally, and how our emotions surface when we feel threatened. Each of us must find a place in our minds which work for us personally. But we should never overlook the potential of doing damage to others with our lifestyles. When we find a way to love ourselves, love others, and still not put up with bullshit, then we are onto something. However, if we tell ourselves that story that everyone is out to get us, we can easily be sucked into the conspiracy realm, or the military machine, or a promising cult, all which claim that we will be in the right, while the rest of the world is wrong. The short-term thinking never works, never has worked, and often ends in tragedy and regret. If we are off in another country killing other humans because we are told that they are evil, then we are living in someone else's story that entire nations tell themselves. We blur the lines between self-defense and murder, and it becomes the norm in society. Oh, another war started? Yeah, we get those every week. And some tell a story that war can be avoided, while others tell the story that war is inevitable to defend our borders. And who is right? Or is there some truth to all opinions which have enough people behind them? We can see how strong the opinions of others are, yet we still think we are in the right. Can both sides of a war be in the right? Can all religions be in the right? Can it serve someone well to move into the jungle and join a cult? These are highly subjective to the degree that no man can claim to have the answers. We can only walk in one pair of shoes, no matter how we look at it. And it's easy to assume that everyone else thinks as we do, or should think as we do. But the best we can hope for are a few common themes in our lives. One of those themes, or archetypes if you will, is the struggle of the individual, the lonely path of the hero's journey, to find our place in the world in our short time here. This cannot be understated as the defining factor in how we feel about ourselves. If we are not on our journey, or filling our purpose, whatever it may be, well, we may never be satisfied. Satisfied with our lives, that is. And I must add that it does not mean the grass is greener on the other side. It rarely is. I like to say it is astroturf or fake grass. And there's nothing worse than getting fake grass. Many people tell you that there is no purpose, that life is just chance, and we are just hairless apes fumbling in the dark. And they just may be right. But don't listen to them. Feel deep in your heart, and you will hear a voice screaming to get out, your true self. We've suppressed it for so long, for fear of ridicule, or appearing too hippie-ish, or spiritual, or any host of other terms. But we all have an inner voice that wants to create something, to explore, to share and grow with others. But we're resistant to it because it's not what we've been taught. The story of being the adult has become our defining rite of passage. We turn 18 and we're thrown into an indifferent world before we know it hit us. We know that the self we present to this world is tainted by our past experiences and our self-image. So what can we do about it? Well, the first thing is to ask ourselves what we really want out of life, which is far harder to realize than it may appear. It can take years to break from the mold that we are cut from. We must create a headspace that allows us to deal with things honestly. Over a period of time, we may find that being rich was never what we really wanted, or being famous was just a way that we could be recognized in life. It is our failure to see ourselves in others and others in ourselves that causes so much grief in life. Looking another human in the eyes and realizing that they have the same fears as we do, it can be very empowering, to the contrary of what one may think. When we are drowning with others, it can take our mind off the fact that we as well will soon succumb to the waves. We also must test out new things in order to see what resonates with us. We are never too old to try a science experiment or develop a new theory about the creation of the universe. We do not give ourselves the credit we deserve or recognize the potential we have to create. We leave things to the experts or the artists and question our own abilities. This is natural because we know others spent so much more time developing their skills, yet we fail to recognize that we as well could do the same if we wanted to. It's never too late to find a niche. So if you are unhappy in your place in the world, simply change it. What is holding us back other than our wages? Well, we need wages to live, of course, but if we are not living well, what good are they? Each person must decide for themselves, given they have the freedom to do so. Always remember that there are others who have no choice in their paths. If you do, take advantage of it. You get one chance at this life, so make it count. Of course, many are also stuck due to financial difficulties or family obligations, and these issues are definitely hard to overcome. Still, we should never blame others for either our incompetence or shortcomings, or for this merely takes the blame off ourselves and allows for more division. Everything that happens to us in life affects our attitudes and opinions, but we cannot change the past, and dwelling on it serves nobody. If you never filled your expectations in life, there's always still time if you use that energy to make it happen. Realistically, we may never be able to fulfill all our dreams, but the act of trying is what matters. Just as the journey means more than the destination, our efforts are all that really matter, not the results. Results definitely help, though. Another beneficial practice is to constantly reassess our strengths and weaknesses. This habit, I have found, is easily overlooked as we become more rigid in our views as we age. We may think that it's too late to do something meaningful with our lives, but some of the greatest discoveries in many wonderful books have been written far beyond retirement age. It's never too late to start something, and as we gain wisdom through the years, we can produce something of value. Any young writer can learn English well enough to write a great book, but only the wisdom of time brings forth the most valuable stories. It takes time to learn what we really need to know in life. Never assume someone else out there has the answers that you need, or you will find yourself trapped by the limitations of understanding. We can take the wisdom of others and see what works and what does not, yet our own experience may differ. If we are going to listen to others, be sure that they are themselves truly benefiting from their own actions or beliefs. If someone is screaming the sky is falling and their life is clearly not in order, they may be merely projecting their fears and shortcomings onto the world. Many who rant about the corruption and conspiracies in the world can trace their fears back to trust issues from the youth, perhaps a misdirected suspicion or hostility that is rooted in an event in their life, or a lost love, or someone who has wronged them, and they take it out on others. This is not to say there are no conspiracies or corruption in the world. Far from it. There's too much to ever list. But a predisposition to obsess over them and consistently tell others the future is grim is something you will likely not find with emotionally stable humans, unless they are doing so merely for the financial gain of pulling in other people who do have fears and suspicions. Then we have the people who do not believe their own hype, but get others riled up because intensity sells. It always has. These emotional experiences we have lead people to feminism or the men's rights movement as a way to get back at half the population that they feel has slighted them. We join groups because it makes us feel like we belong, but fail to see that if our groups exclude others merely for being different, or generalize others as a premise for its existence, it will fail. There is a psychological side to it that cannot be overlooked, and it tells us a lot about ourselves when we understand others. I'm no psychologist, but I regularly read psychological journals and studies in order to better understand myself and others. In recent decades, we've learned what causes various diseases of the body and as well the mind. We're learning that our history determines our future, and that we can use our minds to overcome our negative experiences if we are willing to let go of being a victim. Nobody wants to be a victim, but it's often used as a defense mechanism to protect ourselves against others. And while we're talking about not letting others determine what worked for you, we cannot overlook our tendency to think that our ideas work for others. It's an arrogant thought for us to assume that we can tell others how to live, or what to believe, or what is important. However, this is how it has always been, and it is often rooted in insecurity. We fear that others may corrupt our beliefs, just like Socrates corrupting the youth of Athens. Though today we have more freedom to choose what we want to believe, but we still tend to take others' beliefs as our own in order to provide comfort and security, as well as camaraderie. Our cultures tell us what God to believe in, what we should do with our lives, and how we should serve others. By the time we're old enough to think for ourselves, it's hard to break from the mold. But we cannot forget that the mold is necessary. For if we have no systems, we have no way to learn, and no culture. We have to see what others have tried before us, and where they have succeeded, and failed. On a final note, I believe that the most crucial aspect of our worldview is to have a good world hypothesis, which means to believe that, in general, most people mean well, and evil is more or less subjective. We can impose our versions of good and evil on the world, but it cares not. We can argue externally and eternally about what a God might want, or where we go when we die, what obligations we have on earth, if any, and what the intentions of people are in the world. If we spend our lives thinking that everyone is out to get us, and that everyone has a price and is more or less corrupt, we will lead a life of fear and discomfort. We may think that we are protecting ourselves against damage by avoiding others' beliefs, but in reality we can see that there's much more to gain and little to lose if we let others into our hearts and minds. If our convictions are truly strong and our foundations solid, we should be able to weather even the most extreme storms. In the end, however, there's little that can be guaranteed. We never know how things will turn out. But when we know ourselves, truly know ourselves, we can see the humanity in others. You ask anyone over the age of 75 what things they found most important in life and what regrets they have. The best we can hope for is a life of simple pleasures and as little pain as possible. But this depends on our mental alchemy, the most crucial part of the whole process, because no matter what happens to us in life, how many joys or pains we encounter, or what roads we go down, our perception of the results are all that matter. It's the eye of the beholder, or the glass half full. One cannot deny the only thing we truly have control over in this world is our perceptions, if we can only learn how. Take care, everybody.